There we go. All right, welcome everybody. We are back at Behind the Vita. I'm Ted Gerard, Director of the Athletic Training Program at UNLV, and with me as always is Dr. John Mercer, Department Chair, Department of Physiology and Nutrition Sciences. And today we have our special guest. We have Dr. James Navalta. Why I say he's a special guest. So this is going to be kind of fun. So James and I were actually in school together many years ago in the master's program at UNLV. So as far as like people on campus, he's one of the people that I've actually known the longest. And so we've been really excited to have him on. I know he's excited to come on. We're going to talk a little bit about James's career up to this point, get to know him a little bit better, find out some fun things about him. So welcome, James. How are you?
I am doing well.
All right. And Dr. Mercer, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, and I did not know that you were both in school together. This is news to me, and that's why I love doing this, is we're going to learn something, I'm sure, about James that we didn't know. So that's one already for me.
Yeah. So 97, 98?
96 to 98.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Those were my years for my master's program as well. And so yeah, it's kind of fun how our paths crossed and then recrossed. And in pre-COVID times, James also was an avid member of the running club, the Physiology running club, which we're going to get back going here soon. The only problem, James, I don't know if you know, but the track team is now practicing in the afternoons. Oh man, but we'll figure it out. So let's actually start with a pretty basic question, James. You've been to UNLV twice, basically, right? As a student, and then for your job. My question is, I guess the big one is, what is it about UNLV or Las Vegas that has attracted you?
That is a good question. You know, I grew up in Hawaii, and a lot of Hawaiians like Las Vegas for some reason. I think it's the entertainment. It's what you can do for entertainment. So yeah, after I graduated with my undergrad, I looked at a few different places. Most of them were out west, and UNLV was the place that they accepted me, and then accepted me with an assistantship. So that kind of sealed the deal. Yeah, and I had a lot of good experiences as a master's student here.
Which island did you grow up on?
Oahu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, out on the North Shore, Laie.
So we still have a lot of beach around here, just not a lot of ocean.
True.
To enjoy. Okay, so ultimately, though, I mean, you went after you finished your master's degree, you went to Indiana to Purdue University, right? But then, what was the draw to come back? Because you got your PhD, you had options. I know you did work in Kentucky for a little while, but what was the draw to come back to Las Vegas? Was it the same thing? It's because a lot of Hawaiians here.
It was different this time. So my path after Purdue was I worked for a couple of years, and my first teaching job was at Southern Arkansas University.
Yep.
Kind of deep south. It was an interesting cultural experience for me. And then after that, I went to Western Kentucky, and I was there for 6 years and tenured and promoted. And I thought, yeah, I'll spend the rest of my career there. But then another one of our classmates, Tony, sent me a message and let me know, hey, we've got this job out here. Maybe think about it. And yeah, that kind of started. I talked with my wife. We had kids back. Well, I still have kids, but our children were younger, and believe it or not, it was kind of the opportunities for our children out here that helped us come out. I moved out here. My daughter was able to take hula. She couldn't do that in Kentucky. So yeah, it kind of is the Hawaiian connection to some extent, being a little closer to home.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I mean, I can see it, like some people saying that, Southern Nevada is not a great place for kids and family. So let me ask you just a quick question about that. I mean, how have you found it raising a family here?
It's been really good. yeah, the schools that we've gone through, the elementary, middle school, high school, it's been great. A lot of opportunities, extracurricular. Uh, yeah, it's been really good for our family, for our kids. They found a place to belong. So
Yep.
yeah,
Win-win.
I
yes.
love it. So I'm curious, you're an expert in exercise physiology here at UNLV and the other places you visited. What got you you're originally interested in exercise physiology? What took you down this path?
So my father is or was a college volleyball coach. So I grew up kind of understanding what the pressures are with coaching. You know, it's your livelihood is kind of tied into how these 19, 20-year-old athletes perform, right? So I enjoyed sports. I played sports in high school, but I didn't want my livelihood tied into, you know, how these young athletes perform. So I went more the scientific route, and I really enjoyed it. I piqued an interest. So that's kind of it. It went from there.
Do you remember your first exercise physiology class where you said, "Oh, this is what I'm really interested in"?
I do, and I had the fortune of having a really amazing teacher, you know, so it seemed like everything clicked for me. I was like, oh yeah, this is great. It makes sense.
So I have a question about exercise physiology for you. I mean, honestly, you couldn't have chosen a more difficult topic. I think that exercise physiology, and I love it. Like, I'm a total geek on exercise physiology, but man, it's like, it's crazy, right? So it's physiology, which is hard. And then we're going to add in a component of exercise to it. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on on exercise physiology in general and what I brought up there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's you know, I like figuring out how things work, and physiology is a lot of trying to explain how it works. And I like the challenge of adding the exercise component in there. It's we're never gonna always we're never gonna figure out everything there is to know about it. There's always the next thing, the next scientific discovery, if you will. So that is yeah, I really enjoy that challenge of trying to see how the pieces fit together in a small way and nudging it forward.
So your area that you're mostly interested in nowadays is wearable technology, correct?
I dabble in it.
Okay, so well then maybe I'm wrong. What is your area that you're most interested in?
Well, you know, I saw the question that you sent, kind of what is my expertise, and I'd say I'm an expert in trying new things. You know, I'm not sure that I could say, yes, I'm a tech guy, even though we've done a fair amount of wearable tech studies over the last little bit. But I also enjoy kind of more the applied stuff, and getting outside and doing the hiking, the trail running, the mountain biking, rock climbing, those kind of studies. So I think it's whatever is of interest to me, whatever is of interest to my students. And if we can figure it out, then that's what really appeals to me.
Oh, okay. All right. So then this wasn't on our predetermined questions. So what's in the pipeline then? What's the next thing you're looking at?
Yeah, so Graham and I have a study right now that we're working with individuals that have chronic migraines. So it's been really interesting to look and see, okay, what can we do? How can we manipulate the exercise kind of programming to help reduce that load? So that's something that we've been working on for the last 2 years, and we've got a grant that we've submitted. We'll see if we get it. But that would, yeah, help us to kind of fine tune. And it actually goes along with heart rate variability. We're proposing that you could use heart rate variability to kind of fine tune somebody's exercise program and response. And then that would help them reduce migraine load with their exercise.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Well, I love this, and it's such an exciting area. And yeah, you've done a lot of neat field testing, which is not easy. work at all, but yet it's really important work. I don't know, what are the challenges and maybe benefits of the field work that you do where you're testing outside in real world environments?
Yeah, the challenges are getting instrumentation that works, that's valid. You know, we did our initial test. We do a collaboration with Southern Utah, and we went up and said, yeah, let's find an excuse to bring the students up there and do something. And that really, you know, you learn something every time you do a study. And what we learned was, we don't have equipment that measures what we need to measure. So then that got us into the wearable tech thing. And I went into it naively and used some startup money to get these shirts that purported to measure a lot of different things. And I thought, yeah, it's a plug and play type of thing. We'll put it on, we'll get the data. And it didn't work out the way that I thought it would, but it started us down a path of looking at wearable tech kind of in the outdoors.
That's awesome. So maybe even go back a little further then in time, and yeah, you talked about your ex-phys interest, and I love the story of your dad being a college volleyball player. So I guess I need to ask now, are you a volleyball player?
I do play volleyball. I've played on, oh, what is it? The corporate team that we have a couple of
Oh,
years. Yeah,
yeah. What position do you play in volleyball?
I will do anything. I'm not built to be a middle blocker, but I can pass okay. I can set. So
Oh, that's great. I had no idea. That's awesome. So what took you down the ex-phys path? And I can imagine there's some neat dinner type of discussions with your dad about training his athletes. But what took you down the research path? And when did you start discovering research?
so it was really when I came here to UNLV. Um, yeah, so I helped out in the lab with Larry Golding, and then Jack Young was my advisor. So between those two, it really, I got a kind of a good background, you know, in initially doing research. And then when I went out to Purdue, we did a little bit more, and I got into immunology stuff. And
Mhm.
yeah, it was really just trying to figure things out along the way. And I've been faking my way ever since then. So.
Oh, I don't think you're faking your way at all. Let me ask you a question about teaching, because you know, we oftentimes interact with the same students, and I always hear good stuff about your teaching. So what is it about teaching that you enjoy?
Um, I really enjoy just kind of the moment where you can um, get a concept, either explain it or demonstrate it. And when the student kind of gets it, that's gold for me. You know, yeah, and maybe it's selfish, you know, that kind of enjoyment for me. But I really like it when they say, oh yeah, this makes sense.
That's a warm, fuzzy feeling for all of us when we're teaching. Like, I don't think it's selfish. I think that it makes you feel good, right? Like helping people learn a concept that's difficult is I think one of the most rewarding pieces of teaching. And you know, we have to be rewarded as well, right? And you know, none of us are becoming millionaires teaching in college, but it's the warm fuzzy feelings that is paying us off. So I think I completely agree with you.
Yeah, it definitely keeps you going.
Yeah.
Well, staying on the teaching vein here, I'm curious, and when you approach a class and you teach all, you know, undergrads, you teach graduates, both masters and PhD students. When someone takes one of your classes, what are some of the critical things that you're trying to get across to them?
I think probably the biggest thing I try to do is, whether they figure out what I'm trying to do or not, is to help them learn how to think.
Mm.
You know, because teaching changes just like research changes. We can teach them one thing now, and then if you're talking about wearable tech, it's going to be totally different in a year from now or 2 years. So if they know how to think and approach a problem, and how to go about trying to solve that problem, then you know that I think I've done something.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. That's so important. And yeah, it's that, getting that critical thinking skill set. And boy, it's hard to do that in 15 weeks though, isn't it?
It is. It's just more an intro to critical thinking, maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's nice when you have them in different classes. And I know you have your main class of, where you teach exercise physiology, but then you're doing these more sort of focus classes, which I think is very innovative, where you're trying to take different perspectives of the same issue. So I don't know the class that you're teaching with Julia that you're trying to build out. Sort of talk about why are you even exploring having like almost a team taught type of class?
Yeah, no, that's so I've been doing that kind of applied exercise physiology class for a number of years, and it's usually pretty small classes.
Hmm.
Not a lot of students take it, but it lends itself to us being more active and kind of pretending like we're researchers, allowing them to go through that process as much as we can in 15 weeks. And I started thinking, it's not just limited to exercise physiology. You can do it in biomechanics, you could do it in nutrition or motor learning or whatever it is. So I floated the idea to Julia, and she was all on board. And we do try, we'll meet together, and then we'll go off and do our different labs. But then we do try to have some crossover, so the students in the biomechanics class can kind of see what questions the ex-phys students are doing and their approach, and the ex-phys kids can do the same thing.
Hmm.
I'm gonna chime in here and just tell you that, no disrespect to anyone else at our in our department, but if there was a class I would want to take, it'd be that class.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like, honestly, to me, that should be standing room only to get into that class, because to have two experts like yourself and Dr. Silvernail, and then doing applied stuff with the crossover, to me is like so exciting, because in reality, everything we're doing, in my opinion, in kinesiology and my area, athletic training, there's a crossover between biomechanics and exercise physiology. They don't exist in silos. Like, you're going to run over a force plate, well, and look at the kinematics. Well, guess what? There's some physiology going on behind that, right? John and I were talking a little while ago about stride length, stride frequency, and heart rate response, right? That's real life stuff.
Yeah.
That in coaching and in even in athletic training, I'm talking about injury and stress levels and all this. And there's so much crossover. And I think that for so long in kinesiology, we've siloed these things, and they shouldn't be.
Hmm.
So I just love the fact you guys are doing that.
Yeah, I have really enjoyed it. And yeah, hopefully we can find other ways to continue that crossover.
Yeah. All right, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some fun stuff. And let's
Hold on, wait. I got one more question on that
Go ahead.
same part, because I love this line of thinking, because you're right. We sometimes describe ourselves as a biomechanist, exercise physiology, and when you're out in the real world and you're talking with someone not in academics, and they say, "What do you do?" and you say, "Well, I teach at UNLV," and I'm sure the next question is, "Well, what area?" and you say, "Exercise physiology." What's their next question to you?
It's usually some variation of how can I lose X, kind of pounds. Yeah.
Nobody comes and asks you how can they gain weight?
No, I haven't had that question.
No, I'm looking to gain about 20 to 30 pounds. You only if you hang out with football players, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
They're the only ones. Okay, so let's go with some more. I guess, I don't know. It's all fun, to be honest with you, but I know you like to run. I see you on Strava. I see you mountain biking. So you're a pretty active person. So what is the stimulation for you to get out and be active? Like, what is it that, I guess, makes you warm and fuzzy about that stuff?
I enjoy doing it, and a lot of times it's just time that I can think, without any other distractions. So, I'll think about something that needs to go into a paper, or I need to tweak this in my class, or, oh, this would be a good idea for a grant, or whatever. It's a lot of times it's on those runs or rides that kind of stuff happens. So maybe it's part of my process.
Yeah, I think it is for all of us, because all of us do some kind of similar stuff like that, and I think it's really good for clearing your head, right? And you get out on the trail, and your mind can go many different places. Now the question is, have you ever crashed your mountain bike while you're thinking about what goes into a paper?
I have crashed my mountain bike, but it was at the beginning of when I was, just trying to figure out how to mountain bike. And I don't think I was thinking about anything in particular other than,
Just
I
don't
crashed.
crash.
Yeah.
It's so funny because, for me, mountain biking, I own a mountain bike. I don't use one very often because every time I go, I crash. I feel.
And the desert is so unforgiving when you do crash. Every
Yes.
plant is angry.
They're all mad at you, and the rocks are very angry too.
Yeah. So James, when you go out, I know you're in a wonderful area where you have both paved and trail, like the McCullough Trail or Union Pacific Trail. What do you prefer?
I've been, when I run, I've been running on the paved stuff just because it's a little easier. And right now it's the season for rattlesnakes starting to come out. And I've come across a few in my years of running trails. So it's like, well, I'll give it a little bit. But I'm good mountain biking. I don't mind running over them when I come across them.
So, I have not run into a rattlesnake out running. So do you hear them first or do you see them, or what has your experience been?
I've had a bit of both, where I haven't noticed it until I've heard them, and you're kind of past, and then your heart rate kind of goes up, like, oh, what did I miss? And then I've also seen them, and I'm able to give them a berth. Yeah, I've had some of both.
What's your favorite trail to go to?
I like McCullough just because it's my home trail, and it's probably within a third of a mile I can be on it. So yeah, I'm pretty lucky that way.
I'm jealous. And boy, during the pandemic, there's been an expansion of the trails back there, hasn't there?
Yes, yes. Yeah, you can go back there and never ride the same trail twice.
No.
So was that a reason when you moved into that place? Was that one of the draws?
It wasn't. So we moved there for the schools, and
Yeah.
it's a nice, I don't know, side effect of where we moved.
Okay, awesome.
And that's
All
a
right.
real brand new area too. Sorry, go ahead, Ted.
No, I was going to ask. So what's on the agenda moving forward? Do you have any events coming up? Like, I know you do some trail racing. Anything coming up?
I don't, and I haven't run an event probably in 3 or 4 years. So I'm just more doing it for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for the enjoyment of it, which is nice because then I don't have any goals or targets or anything like that I have to hit or feel like I'm progressing. It's more like, yeah, this was a good run today. I'll take that.
All right. So out of the events that you have done, what was the most memorable one?
It was probably the Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and I don't remember what year it was, but I had signed up for the half marathon, and probably about 7 or 8 miles in, I sprained my ankle, and it's on a loop. So yeah, I ran on it for 5 or 6 miles back.
Oh
And,
boy.
yeah, I do remember that one most vividly.
And,
Wow.
and the ankle has healed at this point?
It has healed, yes, yeah. And that's not the reason that I stopped doing events is, yeah.
Well, a lot of us stopped doing events just because of COVID too. There were, for a couple of years there wasn't events to do. And it's interesting. A lot of people kind of got out of it and did what you were doing. They just found enjoyment by just doing the process, and they don't need the actual event. I've run into a lot of people in my circle that have kind of transitioned to that, and I think it's great, right? Like, as long as you're out doing what you love to do, what difference does it make?
Yeah, absolutely.
So growing up in Hawaii, you must be a surfer then.
I am not a surfer, but I'm a boogie boarder and a body surfer. So yeah, I enjoy going to the beach for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, surfing's a lot harder than I ever thought, but it certainly looks like a lot of fun. And even boogie boarding, I mean, that's not easy to I mean, there is a certain art to catching that wave. But how about in each of the regions that you've lived? What have you taken up a different activity, or do you keep coming back to running and biking and the different places you've lived?
Yeah, it's mostly, let's see, in Arkansas, there wasn't a whole lot.
Mhm.
We had our kids were really young, so it was more chasing after them.
Yeah.
Kentucky is where I started getting into running, and there was a group of us faculty that we were going to sign up for the Nashville as the rock and roll. So we ended up, I was the only one that signed up for it. Everybody else
Oh.
didn't, but that got me into it. So yeah, I ran that for the first time and then continued on. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I can sympathize you with being in Arkansas. The humidity there must have just been horrendous, and doing outdoor activities is not a lot of fun in humid environment. Although, how would the humidity compare to what you were experiencing in Hawaii? Is it a different type of humidity, or?
It is a different type of humidity. And we had moved from Indiana, which is, it gets some, it's green, but
Yeah.
Arkansas was a different kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, different kind of humidity.
So how often do you get back to Hawaii?
Not as often as I would like. Probably every 2 or 3 years. When we were first married, you're buying 2 tickets, and now it's 5 tickets.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little more difficult. And with everybody's schedule as they get older, it's harder to coordinate.
All right. So one question I've been asking a lot of people on this these interviews, and this is the last question I'll ask you. As a researcher or as an exercise physiologist, if there is one question that you had that you could just magically magic wand and know the answer to it, what would it be and why?
Yeah, I'm not prepared for this
I
question.
know. I don't. You haven't watched all the other podcasts. We don't put
I've
this
watched,
in the notes.
I
But
have watched some of them. One question.
like it could be a research question that like you didn't have to do the research. You just got the hypothesis. It was either good or null or where you just could find it out.
Yeah, probably something big, cure for cancer,
Yep.
something like that would help a lot of people.
Wouldn't that be awesome, right?
Yeah.
Like just all of a sudden, bam, bam, bam. Here's your eat North Shore pineapple, and you're right.
Yes, yeah. Ideally, it would be some kind of exercise, in there. And
Yeah. No, I honestly think that's such a great answer.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, and I imagine having an answer to how to lose weight so that
Yeah, that would be really good. Right?
That's-
Every time that people ask
it's a
you.
lot more complicated than someone just sort of throwing it out and expecting an answer in a minute.
You know what you need is a QR code on your phone. Oh, here you go. Just scan this QR code. It'll tell you everything. It'll take you to the ACSM website. All right.
yes.
Here you go.
Or,
Awesome.
all the
James,
different.
go ahead, John.
Oh, I was just going to also add, just with all the wearable tech type of devices that James uses in research, just trying to figure out how to combine all that information in a usable way is a whole nother area too.
Awesome. No, I love it. Hey, James, John, thank you so much for the time you spent with us today. This was super informative. I think John and I both got to know you a little bit more, and hopefully, you got to tell your story a little bit, and this is great. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation.
All right.
Great.
All right.
Thanks,
That's it for today's Behind the Vita. We'll be back maybe next month with the next one.
Yep. All right. Thank you.